Welcome to Wall Street to Main Street. I'm Robert Zakon. Diabetes has reached epidemic proportions in this country, and if it is not contained, it will kill millions of innocent victims and potentially bankrupt our healthcare system. I'm here today with a Newton, Massachusetts native who is working tirelessly to improve the lives of 21 million diabetics and 73 million pre-diabetics in America. He's walking the perimeter of the United States, a 10,000-mile odyssey, to create awareness of this terrible medical problem. To date, he has completed 7,500 miles of his journey. My guest today is Andrew P. Mandell, also known as Mr. Diabetes. He's the executive director of the Defeat Diabetes Foundation, a nationally registered 501c3 nonprofit charity. Andy, welcome to this broadcast.
Thank you for having me, Rob.
It is an honor to have you here. It really is. Before we get started, the hat, the walking stick, please tell us about this.
Well, the hat is a compilation of pins given to me by well-wishers along the way, and I'm honored by their participation in this walk. And the walking pole I need for balance as I walk. It's as a result of diabetic neuropathy that affects both my legs. So both my legs are numb as well as my feet, and I need the pole for balance.
Due to diabetes?
Due to diabetes, yes.
Okay, fair enough. Well, we're going to hear all about it in this half hour. Andy, the Defeat Diabetes Foundation, what is it? Why did you establish it?
I was diagnosed with diabetes in 1985. It's an epidemic out of control, and by following the conventional wisdom, my condition kept deteriorating. It's something that needed to be done. There are 21 million diabetics, as you said, in this country, 73 million more pre-diabetics. It's an epidemic that's only getting worse and worse, and something had to be done. And as well, the financial side of it, if it's not held in check, and I mean immediately, we're in danger of bankrupting the entire healthcare system in this country.
Which is some scary consideration.
Yes.
You're the executive director of Defeat Diabetes Foundation. What's your role?
My role is to set the guidelines of the direction the foundation takes. I'm also out here doing this walk, and while I'm doing this walk, drawing attention to diabetes, I'm evaluating products and services which are helpful to diabetes and to diabetics. And it's important that the proper tools be introduced to diabetics at every opportunity. So I take that responsibility very seriously.
Andy, why do you care?
Well, once again, Rob, it's an epidemic out of control. It's causing so much human tragedy. It's a leading cause of blindness, adult blindness. It's a leading cause of kidney disease. It's a leading cause of amputations from diabetic complications, heart attack, stroke. It's out of control, and something needed to be done on that side. And the financial side, of course, like I said, it's gonna bankrupt the entire healthcare system of the country. Something had to be done. Somebody had to take steps, and we can prevent this deadly, insidious disease.
Which is good news, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
But Andy, Mom, what did Mom tell you?
Oh, Mom, I'll tell you. Oh, Mom, she was on my case for years. Andy, go see a doctor, and I'm feeling indestructible.
And you're how old?
I'm 61 now.
And
then I was probably in my late 20s, early 30s, and this would go on. And I finally got sick of hearing, periodically, not every day, but periodically she would say, go see a doctor. And I made a deal with her. I said, Mom, I'll tell you what, you get off my back. Don't bother me with doctors anymore. When I'm 40, I'll see a doctor. Well, don't you know, 40 years old, there's Mom, go see a doctor. I didn't even have a doctor, so I ended up going to hers. And turns out I was diabetic.
So you should have listened to Mom.
Oh, let me tell you, if I had, and if I had realized the risk factors early on, either I would not be diabetic today, or certainly not to the extent that I've become diabetic.
So the reality is you didn't listen to Mom, and Mom was right.
Yeah.
But equally as important is if every person watching you now will listen to you, maybe you can save them from the fate that you didn't listen to and that you have as a diabetic?
Yeah. In my case, it was out of ignorance that I didn't listen to her. Anybody listening to me now who doesn't follow this advice, they're stupid.
Well said. And we will talk much, much more when we come back. Stay with us. We will return. We'll tell you about Andy's epic 10,000-mile walk. Stay with us. Dan Kerner was only 26 years old when he died. He was a real outdoorsman. He loved his family and friends, and he was in the peak of health, or so he thought. On August 15th, 2003, Dan Kerner died of kidney failure, a complication from undiagnosed diabetes. Today, there are 11 million undiagnosed diabetics. Are you one of them? Dan's family doesn't want his death to have been in vain, so they've started the Dan Project, or Diabetes Awareness Now. Their message, the importance of early detection. The Dan Project and Defeat Diabetes Foundation, one of America's leading diabetes charities, want you to take their free personal online screening test to see if you're one of the many millions at risk. To take the test, log on to the Dan Project at defeatdiabetes.org.
After all, what's worse than finding out you have diabetes? Not finding out.
Welcome back. I'm talking with Andy Mandell, Mr. Diabetes, who is talking, and he is talking the talk and walking the walk around the perimeter of the United States of America to save 94 million Americans who are affected by diabetes. That's 1 out of every 3 Americans. Andy, this is really very, very important. Your foundation, Defeat Diabetes, what's its stated mission and purpose?
Our mission is to inform and educate the general public about diabetes and its prevention. We provide accurate and up-to-date information on diabetes and its treatments and self-management for those who are afflicted with diabetes and their families.
Now, the Boston and New England media has heard you for days talking about the Wake Up and Walk tour.
Yeah.
Tell us, what is Wake Up and Walk?
The Wake Up and Walk tour is a perimeter walk of the United States to let people know about the risk factors, the warning signs, the complications, and the high cost of diabetes, and basically to let people know we're not helpless or hopeless. And we're taking this message all around the country. And to date, like you said, 7,500 miles.
And only 2,500 miles to go. It's all downhill from here, my friend.
So, yeah.
Let's talk about some of these wonderful people who you have met along the way, the first 7,500 miles. 1 or 2. You got to tell us about this young man in Louisiana.
I was asked by a school principal at an elementary school to come in and talk with this lad. He's about 10 years old, and he was the only diabetic in the school, obviously type 1. And his classmates had no understanding of it, and they weren't as understanding with him.
They were mean to him.
In many cases, yeah.
Okay.
So it was my job to go in there, give them a talk, show them how special he is, and to let them know some of the ramifications of diabetes. So I went through a whole exercise with over 100 kids.
Good for you. Good for you. Whether you like it, you're the person in this country who's giving everybody hope. To 94 million Americans, you become their advocate.
We all need an advocate.
It's an honor.
Yeah.
It's an honor, let me tell you.
It is for me, too.
I watched you in Boston not long ago talk to a 70-year-old man. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we just happened to be eating breakfast, and this man is, a very strong-looking man, overheard our conversation and started to ask us questions about it. Turns out he had already lost one leg to amputation, and he was seeing a surgeon that afternoon for the probability of losing the other one to amputation. And further conversation showed that he wasn't even seeing an endocrinologist, a specialist in the diabetes field. And it's just another example how people are going through the cracks.
Let's sneak in one more, if we can, one more example. Tell us about peer support.
Peer support is mostly senior citizens as I speak with these groups. A lot are parents and grandparents who are very concerned about their families, their grandchildren. It's their legacy. And they're all asking questions. How can we help stop this epidemic from reaching them?
And it really is an epidemic, isn't it?
Oh, it's an epidemic out of control.
Totally.
And it's totally out of control, and it's time for us to start taking responsibility for our own lives.
Fair enough. Let's take a break. When we return, Mr. Diabetes will help you understand the realities and the myths of diabetes. Stay with us. At age 26, Dan Kerner died of kidney failure, a complication from undiagnosed diabetes. Today, there are 11 million undiagnosed diabetics. Are you one of them? The Dan Project and Defeat Diabetes Foundation, one of America's leading diabetes charities, want you to take their free personal online screening test. So go to defeatdiabetes.org.
After all, what's worse than finding out you have diabetes? Not finding out.
Welcome back to Wall Street to Main Street. My guest today is Andy Mandell, Mr. Diabetes, a 61-year-old insulin-dependent diabetic who is walking the 10,000-mile perimeter of the United States of America. Welcome back.
Thank you.
All right, we got lots to talk about in this segment, and this is a tough one. This is the harsh realities of diabetes. First of all, diabetes, what is it? What's type 1? What's type 2?
Well, there are basically two types of diabetes. The type 1 is a medical issue purely. It's from birth to maybe early adolescence, where somebody is determined that their pancreas isn't working, producing the hormone insulin that we all need to survive.
Okay.
Type 2 diabetes is much more of a lifestyle situation. It accounts for 90-95% of all diabetics, your entire diabetic population. Of 21 million. So,
and much more controllable.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle issue primarily.
Okay. You've referred to risk factors. Tell us a little bit about those risk factors that are so important.
Well, there are ethnicities to consider. First, there are certain ethnicities that you are more at risk of having diabetes. If you're black, Hispanic, Asian, if you're Native American, Pacific Islander, if you weighed more than 9 pounds at birth, that's a risk factor both for the baby and the mother. If you've had diabetes in your family as a history of diabetes, going back generations even, that's also a risk factor. And these are risk factors that we can't control, so we just have to be aware of them so that we can affect the other risk factors that we can control.
Andy, critically important are the warning signs. Will you help us understand some of those?
Yeah, the warning signs, some of the basic ones, of course, are excessive thirst. You just cannot get enough to drink. You're just thirsty all the time. Frequent urination.
Fatigue, blurry vision.
Slow healing of cuts and bruises. All of these and many more. You want to go to the website to find out more about that.
Dramatic weight loss.
Dramatic weight loss is a very serious consequence of diabetes, and it's from unexplained causes that you should be concerned.
Now, you've talked about the criticality of this, of waking up and walking. Mm-hmm. Waking Up America. Take this seriously. Find out. Go to our website, www.defeatdiabetes.org. Find out if you are at risk. If you are, take the A1C test. But the end point is because if you don't, America, the cost is going to potentially bankrupt America. Tell us about that.
Well, that's the financial cost, of course. First, the human tragedy cost is it's the leading cause of adult blindness, 12 to 24,000 new cases every year. It is a leading cause of kidney disease. It is the single most cause of amputations from non-traumatic causes. We're talking 82,000 plus amputations every year. You're 2 to 4 times more likely to have a heart attack or stroke. You have a life expectancy shortened by 10 to 15 years if you're diabetic, and there are 215,000 deaths every year from diabetes. That's the human tragedy side.
And the amputations?
The amputations, I think I mentioned that, 82,000. Yeah.
I want to underscore that because of people that we've seen it.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Okay, the 82,000 into the financial area that we're talking about. Diabetes is an industry that commands $135 to $150 billion a year. Now that's with a B. And of the 21 million diabetics, up to a third don't know that they have this disease. So this number is based on that approximate
It's a
14.
third of America.
Yes, absolutely. The numbers are expected to increase to 66 million by the year 2025. That means that the total health care costs from diabetes alone is going to reach almost $1 trillion a year. We can't afford that. It's not good for anybody's bottom line, but we can stop it. With programs like this, we can stop it.
And that's what you're all about. You're walking the walk, you're talking the talk, and as the name implies, wake up and walk. You want America to wake up. You're doing the walking. You're doing the hard part, 10,000 miles. But you want them to wake up.
They have to wake up. It's time for people to take responsibility for our own lives. Let's not wait for the conventional wisdom to solve this problem. I don't believe you're going to see a cure, not in our lifetime, not in maybe your youngster's lifetime.
And that was something I was going to ask you is what's the nasty truth about diabetes? And you're pretty adamant about that, aren't you? Don't wait for the cure.
Don't wait for the cure. You're not going to see it. It's I believe, a sad reality. We're in a money-driven society. There's too much being made by the wonderful progress on the diabetic tools. I'm a beneficiary of those myself.
Such as?
Well, you've got the glucometers now that you can get an accurate reading of your immediate glucose level within anywhere from 30 seconds to 5